So I want to clarify a couple of things about the DCAT and what you need to be doing over the next week or two. Pardon me. So these are the questions that you're going to see, I'm pretty sure. They're the same questions we had last year, and I understand they won't be changing. Obviously you will see them in this kind of format. Thank you. This was last year's. This is a student's paper that was submitted, probably familiar enough from doing the Year 12 DCAT, Artificial Intelligence. So what will be different is there won't be quite the same list here, but complexity and tractability will be one of them, which is what you're going to type down here, and then you're going to start into the answers, explaining key aspects and so on. So what we need to be aware of is these first bits here. They're probably pretty much the achieved bits. That's where you just kind of demonstrate that you do understand what's going on in the topic of tractability, and you demonstrate that understanding by giving an example, traveling salesman most likely, and just chatting generally about what happens there and why it's interesting to us. The real meat of the excellent stuff is right down here. Particularly they love the relate to humans bit. So we'll spend a bit of time on that and thinking about what that means with respect to tractability. And this would probably be pretty much merit. I need to double check that, but yeah. So we're going to start nice and easy. We're just going to look at the achieve stuff. So you don't need to be going into depth. You don't need to be doing a whole try-hard thing of trying to do all the maths necessarily. And that's an interesting question, how much maths to do. I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, just make sure you explain things reasonably adequately. You have 90 minutes in theory, because in theory you've got two externals that you could be doing in a 3-hour time slot. We're only doing one, so actually you've got 3 hours, not an hour and a half. But I have found that typically people can get excellence with 90 minutes no bother at all, and spending more time than that writing doesn't actually seem to be an advantage. So yeah, 90 minutes is the time that you're going to have. So I actually think that when I say the maths, the aspect of showing that the travelling salesman problem is a factorial is really the maths. It's a combinations problem. You know, if you're selecting all these different routes from A, B, C, D, A, D, C, B, A, and so on, how are you coming up with an actual formula that you can show to be a factorial? I think it's easy, personally, but then I'm a maths teacher, so maybe other people might find that a little bit harder. If you can, and you can do it reasonably quickly, bearing in mind 90 minutes, then I think you should. And this might be an opportunity to try and see how easy you find to explain that factorial aspect in your time you've got. And that would probably be in this one here, I would have thought. So we're only going to do these 3 questions to start with. It's a 90-minute exam. You really want to be spending more time in these questions than these questions. I would have thought you should be putting a limit on yourself of maybe, especially as the first question is just to write complexity and tractability. I would have thought probably a half-hour, 45-minute limit on what you're going to write here for this practice. And then I'll give you some feedback and we'll go from there. Right, so I hope that is